Awesome. All right, we're up and running, and we had to get this going because we were doing all this chit chat prior.
A lot of chit chat prior.
Yeah, it was all the good stuff.
Well,
Some of it, I didn't write it down. Was it that good?
SNL.
Funny.
Yeah. Neither Tony or I watch the actual show. You just get the updates on Instagram and I get the updates on TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Choose your
It's
platform.
Friday though, so, maybe I'll watch it tomorrow. Sydney Sweeney is going to be hosting SNL.
Not tomorrow.
No, but, she's from Spokane.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. She went to school, Genevieve, she went to St. George's Elementary School.
Were they in The Little Mermaid together?
No, she's younger than Genevieve, but Genevieve, I guess, read to her.
Oh.
And
read to her, like she babysat her?
She was the older, sometimes they have the older kids read to the younger kids in elementary school.
No.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. It was a long time ago.
Me either.
I read to my kids. Is it like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except, younger.
All right. Well, it's good to be back here. Today it's a little quieter around here.
Yeah, it's just you and me.
Oh my gosh. So do we intro still, or we kind of already did that? Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
What's good in your life?
What's good? Well, I don't know. Everything's good. Staying busy. We got lots of fun stuff going on. Keeping enough time to keep putting the podcast together. This has been fun. Although we have last minute changes.
Last minute changes. I'd say that's the one hard thing with a podcast is getting our schedules, Spokane schedules, and then guest schedules to align.
Yeah.
But we got I'm really excited. We're going to have Bree and Carter on from Floor Coverings International.
Local home services flooring company. Very
cool. And then
cool.
we're going to have Hillary from the Spokane Conservation District.
Oh.
Those are confirmed. So we've got some fun guests coming.
And she has a podcast too, right?
She does. And it's Rocks to Roots. And that was, fun fact, one of Brennan's first podcasts that he started producing under Spokecast.
Yeah, so she's like the OG. So that's
she's the OG,
a couple years old.
It's not her first rodeo. She records weekly.
Holy smokes.
I know. She was just telling me, speaking of schedule, she was like, yeah, I just booked every week for a chunk of weeks.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Planning ahead, making it happen. If you don't plan for it, it ain't going to happen.
It ain't going to happen. Got to plan for it.
That's like a whole other thing. Us, like you said, trying to get our calendars aligned, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is an enthralling conversation about our calendars. Hey, actually, I will say this. I told Cassie the other day, one of our new strategists on the team, I said, oh my gosh, I have so much time this week. And she looked at me and goes, are you being sarcastic? I said, no. I only had 15 hours of meetings scheduled. According to Google, my average was like 22.
That's great.
Yeah.
I had a lot of time this week too. No meetings Thursday, Monday. It was great.
Yeah, we might need to edit this out. No one cares about this.
We should. Okay, edit it out.
What we were getting together. We were like, okay, what do we want to talk about here? We usually have our guests come in and we really dig in. So we were going to talk social.
Yes.
We had a couple set up. We're going to bring the social team in and dig into that.
Which we'll still bring them in.
Yes.
We were going to talk to the design team.
And then we got some sickies.
And we're just like, you know what? Let's just get on and talk about digital.
Yeah, just down the line of all the different things we're doing, right?
I caught myself today doing something. I was like, oh, this is our digital lead, Eilish, our new digital lead. She's awesome. And I was like, when digital is such a broad word that we throw around so much. And it's like, well, what does that even mean? And that kind of was a little idea. I'm like, we should really talk about what falls under the term digital and how we can help people with it.
So let me ask you this. One sentence, what is digital marketing?
Digital marketing, oh my gosh, it's advertising online, anywhere from your computer, your phone. It's just reaching consumers online.
Is that one sentence? Just with a bunch of commas, I think.
Here we go. Reaching consumers online.
Okay.
3 words.
Okay, good.
I was like, 3 words, not even a sentence. Reaching consumers online. That's digital.
It is. So, and client came in the other day and it was all about Google presence. But then we found out he didn't have a website. And then we've got people, organic social, right? I know, right? That's part of digital. But no, this is the thing. So website kind of fits in there, although we consider that different. But like these paid things, actually, I don't want to say paid because we're talking organic social,
It's
paid social.
there's so much. Yeah. So let's talk. A website should count, right? You have to have a website.
Step one.
And then step 2, you should have social media profiles.
Baseline stuff.
Step 3, get a Google business profile.
So online listings, website, and then what about all the paid side, right? Because again, hey, I need digital marketing. What do you need? There's the Google platforms.
The Google, she runs the world. Google, of course, is search ads, Google Guaranteed or LSA, local service ads, Google Targeted Display,
Video.
Google Video. And then there's SEO, which goes into the website, which can be paid or not paid.
Right?
And then there's YouTube video pre-roll. There's geofencing. There is paid social media meta ads. There's paid Pinterest and TikTok ads.
So
and
this
then there's
is
email marketing, which I feel like is also digital,
it is,
but it's also content.
It is.
So,
But so this is the problem. So someone walks in, Andrea, and they're like, "Hey, I need help with my digital." I mean, you know enough to know that is the broadest question in the world.
yeah.
But for someone who doesn't know that, they know enough to know they need help with digital, right? How do you help them through that? Like, what are the steps you're going to take? Because there's just so much to talk about.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, it depends on what they currently have. Obviously, starting with questions. Do you have a website? Do you have access to your website? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, we all need a presence online.
I want to make $1 million. That's
like,
all
really,
I want to do.
It's like, well, why? Why do you want to have a digital presence? What are you hoping to gain from having a digital presence?
What do you get from that? Because I know we've asked that question. Why do you want this?
Yeah.
And some people, they don't know the answer. I guess that's okay, but like,
or they'll just be like, oh, I just know I have to have it. Well, yeah, but when it comes to marketing or advertising, it's like, I know that you're going to be spending money. So we need to be able to make sure that you get a return. In other words, you need to have like a goal. Like, what are you hoping to do?
Yeah.
Get more traffic to your website? Do you want to see more people spending more time on your website? Do you want to convert form fills, phone calls? I mean, there's the why. You have to have a why.
You do. And sometimes, I mean, if we're together with a client for an hour, I mean, we could spend a half hour, first whole half hour just on trying to uncover that why. And
literally today, I emailed you while you were in a meeting. We have an intake form that you and I have used for clients for years.
Yep.
And I asked, we do rocks at the Woodshop on our leadership team. They're fantastic. It's part of the book Traction.
We should have done a podcast on that.
We should
Oh my
talk
gosh,
about
I love that.
whole other. That's
Okay.
a good idea for yeah.
Noted.
And one of my rocks, one of the rocks I'm helping carry across the finish line, is to update kind of our internal documents. And I was updating our intake, but I had Genevieve, our art director, and JD, our project manager, look at it. And their questions were so valid. They were like, you guys asked this here. This is a duplicate. Do we really need this? So I was just cleaning up the intake. But at the end, even after cleaning it up and sending it out, there was still like 50 questions. All of this to say, we ask there are a lot of questions that go into the why as well, and figuring out, we want to know the mission vision. 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's not enough. But I mean, at least to scrape the surface. And the mission vision one, I do think that gets skipped over sometimes. And sometimes we just don't have the time for it. But if you can truly know what drives like a business owner. And sometimes we have had folks come in and say, you know what, this is purely a financial play. I came up with this thing so I can make this money, and I want to move to Jamaica or whatever, right?
Let's talk about those profit margins,
right?
And
like
get
that's
the sales going. Yeah.
There's another end of that spectrum, if you will, and it's someone who says, you know what, I want to start a family business, and I got a bunch of kids, and they're interested, and they're going to come in on this. Like there's so many different reasons that people do start these businesses, and it's so enlightening to understand that when we go into marketing it.
Absolutely. And it does tie in to always that brand messaging, the brand story, and all of that fun stuff too, right? The why is important. And maybe, if you're starting a business or you're wanting to start a business or you're finally like, okay, I'm ready to start marketing or advertising, kind of knowing the why and spending time on your own thinking about that is always good going into any marketing conversation.
Yeah.
Even if it is, I just want to sell more of this product or I want to increase my revenue so I can hire another person or there's always a reason.
Yeah. Well, and we do a lot of home services, and sometimes it's, hey, I'm a technician type. I've been, turning a wrench here, and now I'm going to go do it myself. And it's like, okay, great. And I think another thing about that, it helps us understand what they're bringing to the table and where we can best fill in those gaps, because they're, an expert in a certain lane. Mm-hmm. Great. Now we know how we can support them in other ones, or where we don't need to be. If they're all about messaging from some sort of previous past they have, then great. You handle the messaging. We'll make it look beautiful.
Absolutely.
Or something like that. So,
let's dive into specifically Google.
All right.
And starting there. We've done a shop talk, our new podcast about SEO. So they'll definitely have that content there. But specifically, when it comes to paid search ads, you can call them Google search ads, PPC, pay-per-click, Google ads. Everyone kind of has a different term for it, but specifically search ads. What's your thought process when you're setting up a new search ad account for a local business or a business that, yeah. What is that like?
I'd say there's a couple things that go into that. First of all, we need to know, how are they showing up already? Like, what sort of keywords matter to their business or their industry? It's also going to matter how well known they are. So if you're in a step now, I guess you asked for brand new.
Good, yeah.
You're a brand new business. Woodshop. Let's pretend it's us, right?
Okay, yeah.
No one is searching for the Woodshop.
Right, we don't know it exists.
That's not a thing. So we often break those categories into campaigns or ad sets, and there might be a whole category on branded, which is good because you're going to pay a lot less for it.
Yes.
But if no one knows it, they're not looking for it. And so while you'll get less there's no traffic. So now what are we selling? Then we have to start to go down this path of, okay, what are we trying to show up for? What problems are you trying to solve? Mm-hmm. Help me design a logo. Help me draw a logo.
Yeah.
We could show up for that, right?
Absolutely.
And so with us, now this is a conversation we've had. We offer a lot, full service advertising agency.
We do.
There's all these lines. So now we also have to decide, where do we want to start?
Yeah, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, because there are these little buckets. The branded is important. Then there's the actual thinking of what are people searching for. So exactly, like, how do I draw a logo? Or they might say, update, business mark or something. They might even know like the term logo. So just making sure that we get all of those in a bucket. But then there is the ability to like say, well, we have, as a business, we'll say, there's a higher margin doing this, and we want to do more of this.
Exactly.
And so by putting all of these different little keywords in these buckets, then you can allocate different money there and like activate different campaigns.
Yeah.
And then what would the third thing be? Competitors?
Competitors, another way to go about it. Absolutely. Depending on the industry, though. If you're in a very
home services is a very competitive industry.
Yeah, a lot of saturation. Or if it's highly branded with some of your competitors, they know what they're looking for. Cabinets from Home Depot. Okay, I just need some cabinets. Well, a cabinet shop can show up for that, right? That's cabinets and Home Depot.
And compete for that click.
But that's the other thing too, and it goes back to choosing those priorities, because you're not going to have enough money to go after every one of these things. You're not going to be efficient in it.
Absolutely. And you shouldn't want to it's good to start. I always love with marketing, let's start and get one tactic locked in and then feel good about the results for 3-4 months, and then it's like, let's launch the second phase. Like, you can always be growing and expanding and looking at different areas and different buckets of keywords and things like that. But
I think too that one thing I'll say, we've been seen at times, I don't know if you know this, but we've been seen at times as a conservative agency. And what I mean by that is because exactly what you're saying. We had someone show up the other day and said, she made a comment. She was going to drop like, she spent $2,000 right away or $5 or whatever, and she got $200 back. And now I don't know what the expectations were. And so there's a lot to say about that. However, I've absolutely seen these proposals where it's going to cost you $50,000 and you're all in. And I don't think we've ever asked someone for something like that.
No.
So we said, no. Like, 50,000 sounds great, but you know what? Why don't we prove 5 first?
That's it. I had this conversation literally last night. I was at the downtown Spokane partnerships, their little annual board meeting, and I was talking to Kathy from the Fox.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, I got a proposal from another digital agency," and they just it was so much. It was so expensive. It was so crazy, and I was like, "Well, yeah, they're just gonna go like." I'm like, I'm not going to recommend that you spend $10,000 on a show when the ticket price is $50 and you only need to sell it. It just doesn't make it just doesn't make sense. And also, there's obviously shows are different than an ongoing product or service, but it's really common to have big digital spend proposals. You can always add more money.
Yeah, and there are times where you're not spending enough, but so we do need to have those expectations. But if someone's in a reasonably competitive market, in Spokane, for instance, they're spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on search ads, they should be doing okay.
Yeah.
If they're a lawyer, they might be on the lean side, right? But if you're anyone else, you're probably doing okay.
That's what I said last night. I was like, I don't think I work with any Spokane businesses spending more than $7,000 a month in all of their digital advertising.
Yeah.
Right?
And you could scale up to that still, but
absolutely.
That's the thing that kills me. And that is a place where digital can be could be difficult for business owners because it can be so nebulous. Often we even find just educating folks.
A lot of education and
what are the
explaining
terms? And I remember another one where we kept interchanging the use of like search and SEO, and it was because another agency they had worked with, I don't know if anyone was wrong. I think the words were used differently.
They're just used
it was
differently.
Confusing.
That's what I know when I was like Google, PPC, search ads, or like just search. There's a lot of terms, and I don't know why there are so many and why.
It's industry jargon.
I know, but there's just I feel like we have so much in marketing.
Okay, so no more jargon for the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, right. There's going to be.
I don't even know what to say next.
Yeah, it'd be some.
We're an agency, right? We're a marketing agency. What does that even mean? You talk about jargon. How many people type marketing agency in?
Only people that know.
Yeah.
For agencies.
So the
it's
same
a fancy
thing.
word for firm, group. No.
Right? But still, what does any of that mean? They need help with digital ads. They don't know that they need a digital agency.
All the more reason for us to buy that keyword. No.
Exactly.
Searching.
I think that's a great reason though too. And even if a business owner is not going to use a firm or an agency or a group, they should get some outside perspective on how to put these things together. Because to this point here, you might identify these keywords that just seem so important, but they might be incredibly high value keywords that are incredibly competitive.
Or no one's even searching for them. It could be the complete opposite.
Because it's not what the consumer, it's jargon, right? It's not what the consumer is typing in.
Yes. Oh, gosh, I was just talking about that too with someone else. I'm like, you are very removed, or we need to, I'm removed from this. You're very attached to your business. You need to that really isn't going to matter to someone who's searching.
How do you help a business person or a business owner see that though?
I use facts from Google and seeing what
just
are the terms
up.
People are searching. Yeah. That's the one great thing about Google. There's always a lot of opinions in marketing and design. But when it comes to digital advertising, you can really just use fact data-based marketing.
Yeah.
It is. I even tell clients, I'm like, yeah, it's great. We'll do a little A/B test. And I think that this creative is going to perform better. This copy is
I'm sorry, what's an A/B test?
We'll come back to that. Or this creative is going to perform better. And then I'm completely wrong. And the internet, the people have chosen.
The people have
clicked,
spoken.
They have clicked on the other ad or the other creative. So that covers all things Google search ads, paid ads. And of course, there's also the SEO side of Google. But we're going to just pause on that because that's going to be coming up in another episode of Shop Talk.
Shop Talk, yeah. A spin-off series going kind of really deep into the case studies. So look for those.
Yeah, deep into case studies, and they're shorter, like digestible, just Tony and I, 15 minutes, good takeaways. So plug on that. But let's take it and people say, well, when I want to digital advertise or digital market or digital marketing, where do I start, right? So Google's one option. Then there's YouTube.
Yep.
Which is owned by Google.
So is it still in the Google?
So
Wait.
I'm bringing it up next because it's owned by Google. And it's also bringing it up because you had mentioned Performance Max. We've talked about that before, but also about there being video ads within Google search ads.
Right.
And so if you have people like, well, when should I be on YouTube? When should I not be on YouTube? What do you say to that?
Let's look back at everything you have, because you're talking about YouTube in the sense of where it comes with Google. But the other side of this is looking at YouTube in the sense of social. Yeah. You know, are we coming at it from a search standpoint? Are we coming at it from a social and content standpoint? So
I was going to say,
this is a crazy web.
It is a crazy
And there's
web.
not one right way to do it. That's the hard part.
Exactly. And so people be like, well, where do I start? And that's why you have to have the intake. I would say if you have great creative already made, and you have that video content, no brainer, because it's easy to get added. But if you don't, then there's a whole other production cost to that. There's a strategy behind that. I'm not discouraging you on it, but it's if someone came to me and said, oh, I have video done and I want to do some digital advertising, I'd put it on YouTube and social.
Yeah.
For sure, ads. And then I'd be like, okay, but really, let's look at search. Search is always the first. Like you should be in search ads.
Almost always it's number one. I'm trying to think right now of a time when I'd be like, yeah, let's wait on search and do something else. Like, unless it's a website first, which I'm just assuming that's done. It's we said we were done talking search, but it's the warmest lead for your business.
Absolutely.
They're literally looking either for information about your service or they're looking with intent to purchase. And those are two different types of ways to frame your keywords too. So
absolutely.
Now we're getting into the optimization. I love how you're like, we covered all search. I'm like, well,
but it kind of comes in, and that's why I brought up YouTube in the sense of the fact that, like, where do I start? You should always start with search. If for some reason search isn't it, I would definitely push you without a doubt second into Meta, which is
social,
Facebook and Instagram, paid ads. And that's the other thing that I want to talk about is that ideally you do have a strong organic content strategy already.
Okay.
And a perfect world. And if you do, it's like even more reason to be running paid ads. Sometimes I get the question of, oh, I haven't posted in like a month. Okay. Or I've never really posted. Okay. I don't have social platforms. Get your social platforms.
Yeah.
But you can still run ads even if you don't have an account. And you can still run ads even if you aren't posting. It's just kind of like a good, better, best, right?
Yeah.
In a perfect world, you're running ads while you have a really strong organic content strategy. But it's also one of the most affordable ways to do digital advertising and marketing. The cost per thousand CPM is not as great as display ads in Google.
Oh, display's dirt cheap.
But
that's a whole other animal, right?
That's just awareness. But for getting clicks, right? You're trying to get sales. You're trying to get people to go back to your business website or to like book an appointment. Search, Google search, Meta.
One thing you said there is you're talking about the ads for sales and how we can do those with or without the content side.
Yeah.
And I think a great point there is that your content strategy does not have to solely be selling your business.
Yes.
Like there's not a ton of engagement in, here's my Diet Coke, please buy it every single time on your post. So like, how do you get around that with folks?
Oh my goodness. They bring in the social team and we talk about a new updated social strategy.
And that's what I'm saying. You got a business owner here. It's like, okay, you come up with this creative idea. We talked the other day. We're going to illustrate these things. We're going to put some voiceovers. It's going to be engaging like this. There could be the business owner says, yeah, well, that's not going to sell anything.
You can't just sell all the time. No one wants that. Who's going to follow
then
that?
Then why do I do it at all? Why do I pay for this?
Community engagement, brand loyalty,
okay.
customer service.
Okay.
All of those things.
So you get this beautiful content strategy going. It's engaging. It's not necessarily selling. But now we come back to what you said.
Paid
Put
ads.
the paid behind it, right?
Yeah.
There's
a lot.
I know there is.
That's why I was like, let's talk about digital. There's so much there, and it's so overwhelming, and people just never know where to start and what's important and where should I be. And then you get people that come in and they're like, well, I've heard about geofencing.
They love to say that. Hey, if you've heard about geofencing, you should call us because I've heard about it too.
No.
It's because it was like this. I'd probably say like 5 years ago, five or so years ago, like digital was coming on with these new shiny tactics, and the geofencing was absolutely one of them. We're going to draw
A fence.
Thank you. We're going to draw geofence. We're going to draw a fence around the building, and then we're going to serve the ads. And it's great, but you know what? My phone has to be in a certain mode. I have to be accepting of, the meta god privacy. There you go. I can't talk. It's like 10 in the morning. Why are we doing this so early?
Privacy settings.
And yeah, there's just not enough traffic on all of those.
You have to be in the app. You have to, there is a lot. It's great. It has a service for some things. Like we geofence the Fox Theater year round. So every time someone comes into the theater, if they have all of these little boxes checked, then we can essentially serve them ads later. But it's like, oh, I want to geofence if I'm a restaurant or a brewery. I want to geofence the other breweries. Okay, well, their hours are from 4 to 7, Wednesday through Saturday. You might get like maybe 400 people a week. And it's like that. And it's just
not
the percentage
a big enough list.
Yeah. So there's just a lot. It sounds sexy and it was new. And it's still definitely, I feel like I get asked about geofence every time I talk about digital advertising.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's great. It's there. But if you're not running your search ads, if you don't have paid meta ads, if you're not on YouTube, there's so many other tactics that I would put before. And I'm like, okay, if you're running all high, you've got a strong plan, that's great. Then we can add it in. But I don't think that has ever happened.
An extra 10 or 20% on what you're doing, it makes sense. But the other sexy thing that kind of fits in that category would be footfall attribution. And it's the same situation as geofencing, but except for I saw the ad and now I've walked into your store, right? And now same thing, mobile settings have to be in certain places. And it's good for gigantic. I mean, you could do it for a mall maybe.
Yeah, or the whole, a whole county.
Yeah. Well, hey, welcome to the county,
yeah,
right?
I mean, or,
if you're selling tourism, maybe we want people to footfall in the county.
Absolutely.
But that's a big opportunity. And when you start to factor in all the ways that, the data has holes in it, you need it to be that big. If it's your restaurant or your brewery, okay, how many people saw my ad and then walked in and had the settings and opened the app?
So small.
Yeah.
And it can be there. Like you can spend a few $100s a month on it consistently for a year or years, but it shouldn't be your main digital advertising strategy.
So expectations.
All about it.
That's another problem I think here in the digital space too. And, even back to Google, but this can go with social too. When it's something is pay per click, just because they click doesn't mean it was a sale.
Exactly. I know. And we have to pay for those clicks.
So and one of the other challenges, we dipped into this before on one of the other shop talks, but please give your agency access. Like,
oh yeah,
we need access to convert. We need access to show how people are moving through the process. And without that, you can have all the impressions in the world, but if I can't prove a conversion, you will not be happy with me.
No,
right?
Absolutely. And that goes back to when you're starting to think about going into goes back to when you're starting to think about digital advertising and digital marketing, and we talk about those questions and the intakes. Yeah, like how are you already tracking leads that come in? I feel like that is something that is just not talked about a lot in general ever. Or it's very like, oh, well, like I might ask them, every other day. It's like, no, you should be asking every single person that you talk to, even if it is a referral. Well, who? You might know them, because what if it's one person is referring you a ton of clients? You should spiff them, right? Give them a gift or a thank you or call them. But you need to be tracking where your customers come from. And it's not going to be accurate, right? 90% of the time it will be right. But even if you just know, like Google, a customer is not going to be like, I saw your paid search ad.
Right?
No, they're just going to be like, oh yeah, Google. I saw you on Google. And that could be a few things, right? That could be your website. That could be your Google business profile. That could be your social profile. That could be your paid search ad. Could be your SEO. And that, there's other ways to track some of those things. UTM, Google Analytics, making sure you have a Google Analytics account. That's from the get-go. We have implemented that. If you're doing any kind of digital advertising with us, we will set up for you, if you don't have one, a Google Analytics account, get you access and explain that to you. Because again, that's tracking.
It's some level. And you're right.
to.
It's none of it's perfect and we don't need it to be, but it's a baseline. You got to have a baseline. And we're actually starting a traditional campaign for a client here next month. And I want on their analytics too.
Absolutely. Yes.
I want to see if we get boosts. Now, I'm not, this is going to be a radio campaign and we're not tying it to the spot times or anything like that. And there are technologies that can.
Absolutely.
But yeah, if they're averaging 500 people and we're starting to get at 700, it's anecdotal, but it's the right direction of what we're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. So. And I think another thing too with that, especially even with billboards, if you know the zip code of where your billboard is and then the zip code of the traffic coming to your website, those are all things that you can track and be like, okay, we can kind of give some credit or some boost to that tactic.
So with this, I mean, we're talking digital. Now we're veering a little into traditional pieces, but it's still, we're talking about the root of digital with the tracking abilities, and you got to have those. I guess the first question we said, you need a website first. So we should jump in there. You need a website and get your tracking set up.
Yeah, get a Google Analytics account. It's free.
It is free.
It's just so much information. It's wonderful.
So we talked a little search, a little bit of video, a little social. What else do you run into when people are like, hey, Andrea, I need digital marketing?
The tracking, this is a good segue into the tracking and into understanding how your website works and what the job of your website is.
Okay.
If you're trying to sell online and we're doing digital advertising, that is so fun, and it's fun for us, and it's very different because you can like lead directly through to a product linked and the conversion is someone bought that product. And as long as we have access
right.
to everything, we're able to use pixels and really get in and actually see those conversions. And we say it's fun for us because that's exciting, right? That is revel in our core value. You're winning, we're winning, it's working, we're high-fiving, and then it's like, can we add more money here or what's next, right? That's when you're selling something online. If you have a website and you have a brick and mortar, are you looking to get people to come into your store, or are you looking to have people fill out a form on your website? Are you looking people to call? Maybe you have a website, you don't sell on your website, and you don't have a brick and mortar. And then it's like, okay, cool. Clearly we're looking for phone calls. Or even then further down, we have clients that have a website, no brick and mortar. They're not selling on their website. They do not want phone calls. They just want a form fill.
Don't call me. I feel like we need a whiteboard right now with all the pins and the red string. Like there's so much here.
It goes back to like, what's the purpose of your website? Like, why are you want to send people there? The why. Like, are we selling something or are we getting, And then we can get a little bit further into the tracking side of things. And that's, I feel like, what comes up a lot with digital is, well, I have a form fill. Can't you tell where this address, where the person lives that filled out that form fill based on their email address? Or, it's like, no, there are some privacy things there, but it is like, do you have a thank you page on that form fill? Are you asking customers on that form fill how they heard about us? There's like those kind of, again, tracking type questions that come up because it's like, okay, we're going to spend $3,000 on search ads. We're sending them to this page on the website. Well, what's the conversion from there?
Yeah. And that's where it gets a little convoluted because we're going into, digital ads, a digital ad campaign, but now we're talking about a form fill, right? And now we're talking about the use of their website. And I know that we get really excited about that. And sometimes we have to like hold ourselves back a little because it's like, hey, here's a thing and here's a thing and here's a thing. Because they all work together.
They do.
And I think that's probably our challenge, because at the end of the day, business owners, they want results. Mm-hmm. They want their money to work for them. Mm-hmm. And, not everything always works. And they don't want excuses. But sometimes we got to get ahead of that. It's like, hey, another one, I can send all the people in the world to this website, Mr. Business Person.
Right.
But the site is not prepared to convert, right? And so...
think if you had a website and like you didn't have a form fill or you weren't selling, right? You're like, well, what?
Or it was just a site from like 1996. Like, yeah.
The 90s are trendy, but not for websites.
Didn't we see when the other one... Oh.
It was.
No, somebody had one that was from 98. I remember now. Okay.
Yeah, it was this week. And
I was like, it's literally, no names here, but it's literally this old website that the moment you open it, you're taken back in time. Mm-hmm. And maybe it converts. I don't know. But if it doesn't, I sure want to know. Like if they're getting all this traffic and not converting, like we need to work on that. So
something that keeps me up at night is form fills that don't work on websites.
Keeps you up at night?
Yeah, I'm always thinking, I'm like, when was the last time we tested that form fill? Just make sure that the email address is right. That you have but like little things too, kind of going back to convert. You would be surprised. Or,
it's true. It's true.
Or like the emails are going to Cindy, your office manager. Well, Cindy hasn't worked for you for a year. Where are those going? Just making sure, it sounds like a silly common thing, but making sure that your website has an active form fill with a right is critical for any kind of digital, paid or even non-paid, even on social media, right?
Well, people do that with sites all the time. They build them and they leave them, and then WordPress or your sites update, plugins update, things break. And that's a hard conversation too, to talk with a client. Hey, we're going to build this website, but we also do maintenance work for you. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always seem... It's not a sexy thing for people to be like, oh, yeah, you need to maintain my website. It's like, well, it'll be really sexy once it breaks or when it doesn't break,
or
right?
If you're,
that's the problem. It breaks and then they freak out
or they never go to all the like different service pages. Like
yes.
You're never like going and checking, and then it's a freak out because a customer ends up on that page and then they call you, and then it's like
you get that one phone call.
Yeah.
So it's like that's another thing. Whether you're paying someone or you're doing it yourself, you have to make sure that your accounts are connected, your pages are working. Like make sure these things break. The little gremlins in there.
There are gremlins.
Little gremlins just crawling around and pulling at wires. So.
Another kind of similar takeaway on that is just making sure that you make sure the information is accurate on your Google business profile. Even if you aren't running paid ads, you should just always be updating your hours. Nothing is worse as a consumer when you go to a Google business profile and they say the business is open, and then you drive to the business and you get there, and then there's a paper sign on the door or a post on their Instagram that they're closed and they didn't update Google. Oh my gosh, it's so infuriating. Like, again, whether you're spending money on digital advertising or not, those are kind of things that everyone should be doing that are free.
Yeah.
If you own a business, that is critical.
That's a habit then of using these platforms, because when the oven breaks or whatever and you just write the sign, tape it on the door, you have to be in the mindset of, okay, where else am I letting people know? And there's a time too where I posted on Facebook, phones are down, or stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But Google's the same sort of thing. Use that profile. Google wants it to be a social profile in some senses. It's a business listing, but when you treat it that way, it's good for your business, and Google likes Google. So you're using their products as as they're intending them to be used, and they like you for that.
Absolutely. So we've kind of briefed a little bit on some big digital tactics
All over the place.
some takeaways there, though. What if someone is already doing paid search ads or paid Facebook ads and we get it's just not working?
Well, we go back to the why.
Yeah,
So,
but or someone comes to us and I am working with someone, or I've been doing it and I'm just not happy, or how do I know?
Yeah. And we do get that. And it's same thing you said earlier. It's a tough question. Well, tell me, what are you unhappy about? Is it doesn't look the way you want it to look? It doesn't look the way you imagined it? Because sometimes it's not that it's vain, but sometimes it's like a creative decision, right? Mm-hmm. It's just not working in the sense of what they thought it would look like. Mm-hmm. Or is it the results side? Okay. You got this many likes, or you got this many, are you trying to grow the accounts with your social? Is that the plan? Are you selling and trying to make conversions? And again, okay, well, you got, say, 10 conversions. Well, what would you be happy with? Well, 10's not bad. You start going down that path and you might find out, you know what? Maybe they just want someone new. Sometimes it's a relationship type thing.
Totally.
But it's still important for us to know that, because we go through this thing that's like, listen, I've had this before for SEO too a lot. I always scan it and say, hey, your site looks great. There's a couple little things, but it's nothing like that we need to worry about. And so if I look at someone's social and I'm like, tell me what you're mad about, because I can't see any problems, but that's where what do you want from it?
And sometimes you have to dig that out of people. You really pull it out.
Well, and it's like, hey, how many likes I'm getting? I'm not happy with that. Okay, well,
engagement's a lot different than clicks.
Yeah. Is it the content thing, or are we putting money behind them? Because that is important. Mm-hmm. Or is it the growth of the account? I got 1,000 followers, but I want 10,000. Okay, cool. That might require a different strategy.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean what the other guy's doing is wrong, but if what you're telling me right now is what you want, then here's what we would do, or how we would handle that. And I think that's important, because there's so many digital marketing companies, and there's some shysters, and any of the main ones that anyone's going to know of, these aren't them, right? But everyone looks at it different. And we talked about this earlier. There's a million ways to do it. Ask 10 marketers how to do something. You get 10 different answers.
Absolutely.
And so it's just important to ask those questions and understand their goals, so we can say, well, here's how we would approach achieving your goal. And here's how we would approach reviewing the results.
Yes.
And adapt or die, revel in.
Trust.
Yeah.
Legit. If you were sitting here and you're like, okay, so this digital advertising, maybe I need to do it, or maybe I need to change my strategy. The what you need to have. We'll recap those takeaways. So you need to have your website.
Yes, please.
You need to have Google Analytics.
Yes, please.
Which is Google Analytics is free, and set it up. Then you need to have your Google business profile, which also has an analytics, but it's not Google Analytics. I get that one a lot.
Now you're confusing
Again,
me.
that's free. Make sure you set that up. And then, of course, make sure you have at least a Facebook and an Instagram. Of course, and there's LinkedIn, Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube, etc. So having those things, make sure you know what your goal is, what you want to do, why, and then also be prepared to know how you're tracking leads already.
Yeah.
Because if you are asking, fantastic. Do you have it in a sheet? If you're not, these are all things that if you don't have those things and you don't know those answers, that's your homework before you go into digital advertising.
Yeah. And I think it's always great to send the business owners back with a little bit of homework, because we do take it seriously, and we need some buy-in on their side too, to make sure things are done right. And and when they come back and they've done it, you've got a good partnership opportunity there.
Absolutely. They're definitely, sure, you're hiring us or hiring any agency to take off some of that responsibility, right? To free up some of your time to handle the marketing. But we still require, some accountability on the business side and some information to make it happen.
That's right. Well, that was a whirlwind.
It was a whirlwind. There's a lot there, and it's a good place to start. And then, of course, we could talk about those tactics individually for hours.
Well,
but then that gets really boring and
you mentioned
jargony.
You mentioned the shop talk, so we've got
the shop talks are
shop talk on SEO. Mm-hmm. We have a shop talk specifically on meta ads.
Absolutely.
And then was there another digital one?
No. Search PPs? No, I don't.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But
Tune
there-
in.
there's
You'll have to
gonna
find
be,
out.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more shop talks coming up too, and then we'll dive a little deeper on some of these topics and tactics in those.
Okay.
Here we go.